I got a free motorcycle.
Yeah,
Did we talk about that on the show yet?
We talked about it when it was pending or like maybe going to happen.
Homie showed up in a truck, and the dude who gave it to me, his name is Matt. He doesn't want any public recognition. He doesn't want me to. I mean, I did do a post, but I didn't tag him in it. He didn't want any recognition. He just wanted it to go to a good home, and so the Matt Farah home of wayward Italian old things is in full effect. What up, everybody? Today's podcast is brought to you by Bird Dogs. You probably heard about these shorts and pants on other shows. They've been a popular podcast advertising company, and now I have a pair for myself, the joggers. They are delightful. Let me tell you why I love these pants. They're good for everything. They fit well, they're comfortable, and they are good for all activities. My key activity that I need pants like this for is for when I want to fly on an airplane somewhere and then have to do work and look semi-professional like once I get there. You know what I mean? Like, you want the comfort of almost like a sweatpant on the airplane, but then you look like a slob when you get off the plane and have to go straight to work. Jeans with a belt, not as comfortable if you're on a plane for a few hours, but these pants, they've got some nice little stretch to them, right? They make my legs look good, they're comfortable, and they have the freedom to wear one pair of pants to the airport, through the airport, on the airplane, and then to the press launch dinner afterwards once I get there, right? Or they're great for lounging around the house, hanging out with friends, or as just an alternative to jeans or sweatpants. They look like you actually care about your clothes, which is a good thing. And so you can check them out for yourself. They got the pants and the famous original shorts. Go to the Bird Dogs website. The link is in the podcast description. And when you enter promo code TIRE, T-I-R-E, they'll throw in a free Yeti-style tumbler with every order. Can never have enough Yeti-style tumblers. Go to the Bird Dogs website, hit the link in the description, and use code TIRE for a free Yeti-style tumbler with every order of Bird Dogs. Thank you for sponsoring today's show. We're also brought to you by our favorite dash cams, Blackview. It's the DR970X 2-channel LTE. Sooner or later, they need to name these things like the Falcon or something because it's a combination of letters and numbers, but they do actually mean things. The new DR970X 2-channel LTE means it combines superb 4K Ultra HD image quality with simple LTE connectivity using the built-in SIM card reader, right? It's got front and rear cameras, capturing every little detail up in front in the 4K quality, while the rear camera comes with the Sony Starvis HD sensor, ensuring best clarity under any light. It's got the free app allowing you to connect to your dash cam over the cloud. You get impact notifications. You can watch the live view and download videos directly to your phone. No physical connection needed. There's parking mode native, which means you can hardwire it to the car's fuse panel without requiring additional accessories. That way the dash cam switches to parking mode automatically when your ignition is turned off. And then thanks to the video buffer, the few seconds leading to triggering events are also recorded. So for instance, if someone were to back into your car, it doesn't just measure the impact. It records a few seconds before that so you can see how, maybe why this person hit your car. Then you can let the dash cam save the event videos to the cloud in real time just as they happen. Plus, the DR970X 2-channel LTE dash cam doubles as a Wi-Fi hotspot for up to 5 devices, allowing your passengers to use the internet while on the go. Get the best 4K dash cam protection and the ultimate cloud connectivity with the DR970X 2-channel LTE. So go to blackview.com/TST. That's BLACKVUE.com/TST to learn more about the DR970X 2-channel LTE dash cam and use promo code TIRE. So go to blackview.com/TST, promo code TIRE to get 10% off any Blackview dash cam or parking mode accessory, plus free shipping for orders over $200. Also brought to you by our friends at Dylan Optics. You know those amazing sunglasses that me and Zach are wearing in every single Smoking Tire video? Those are called Dylan Optics. We have been sponsored by them for almost 13 years. It is our longest sponsor, our original sponsor, and the only sponsor we've had that has been consistent the entire time. I love their glasses, not just because of that fact. I love the glasses because they are amazing. The lens has an unbelievable double polarized technology that allows you to see incredibly clearly. It's like HD life. And also that matte finish on the outside of the lenses identifies the glasses immediately as Dylan's. They look different. People kind of notice them when you're wearing them. And they every year add more and more styles. I think when I started with Dylan, they had maybe 3 styles. There's probably 15 frame styles on there. Plus, you can customize them. There's your frame style and then your lens color. They have the matte finish lenses in black, silver, gold, blue, red, green. They're very, very cool. And by mixing and matching, you can order pretty much a unique set of glasses for you. You can even get prescription Dylan Optics, which I got some for my wife, and they are great. To order them, go to thesmokingtire.com, our website. Yes, we have a website. Go to it, and under the Partners tab, you'll see Dylan. If you click on that link to get to Dylan Optics, we will send you a free Smoking Tire t-shirt for every pair of Dylan Optics sunglasses you order. I love those glasses. They look great on big heads and small heads, aviator styles, wayfarer styles, wraparound styles. There's a bunch of different styles, and they're all awesome. So head over to thesmokingtire.com, click on the Partners tab and then that Dylan banner, and you can get yourself a pair and that free Smoking Tire t-shirt for supporting the people who support us. All right, folks, today it's a crew show. Zach and I are in studio. We are talking about the joys of driving some of your own cars, the free motorcycle I have just gotten, how I gashed the shit out of my head with a razor that's supposed to be safe. What the hell is going on? We also talk about an amazing Ferrari book that Donnie bought me and our dream bits of memorabilia, answer some amazing Patreon questions about whether or not EVs are actually good for us or just good for them, and a whole lot more on today's episode of the Smoking Tire Podcast. That's a rabbit hole, the pen thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's like... I'm surprised I haven't got it's been an impressive amount of restraint, I think, on my behalf that I haven't gone down the pen rabbit hole. Because once you go to cars, then you go to watches, the pens is really the next thing. And I write a lot. I handwrite. But I told myself, because I thought the idea of fountain pens was good. I'd buy this box of 6 Pilot fountain pens. $12, different colors.
Mm-hmm.
And if I finish them, maybe all of them but the red one. Doubt I'll ever get through the red one.
Grading papers.
But there's like black and like 5 kinds of, there's black, 4 kinds of blue and red. If I got through all of them, then I would buy myself a nice fountain pen. Haven't even finished one. That was a year and a half ago.
Is that like the broad tip calligraphy style?
Yeah, like
shit?
a fountain pen. Like,
yeah.
But they're not the ones where you have to put them in the thing and
Inkwell,
and suck
right.
them up. Like they're disposable. They actually write beautifully.
We had to use those at Waldorf. We had to learn calligraphy when I went to that school.
Oh, really?
And they were like, yeah, which is fun, but also it slows your writing down.
Did you have to wear a suit too?
Definitely not. No.
I'd rather have to write in a fountain pen than have to use a suit. But like, you can tell like here, like that page, the light blue, like that's fountain pen. Like a bunch of.
It looks like
I've written a bunch of these in bunch of pages in fountain pen.
It looks a lot like those ball.
Here's ballpoint
injection
pen,
tip,
or
yeah.
here's like a gel roller pen, and that's fountain pen.
Okay.
Like it
It's
definitely,
similar.
by
It's
the way,
similar.
it bleeds through the
Yes, it
page
does.
like crazy.
Yeah, you're pouring liquid ink on there. Yeah,
I mean, the only thing that sucks about fountain pen is like it definitely fucks up the fact that I write on both sides of the page.
I think if you have the style to it, like Carl Muth, what was his last name?
Oh,
like,
yeah, Carl.
If you can do that, or like maybe do cursive
That guy's
quickly.
handwriting.
Otherwise, it just doesn't do anything.
Carl, homie, I know you listen to this show. Please send me a handwriting sample again. That motherfucker writes. He has the richest person handwriting. When I tell you guys that this fool, who's the guy who owned the crazy modified Jaguar XJR that I did a video with like 7 years ago, it had a LS motor and a gated 6-speed gearbox. It was like,
beautiful.
If you had all the money in the world, that is the Jaguar you would build. And this guy does. He also literally wrote the book Philanthropy for Dummies. He has a big family fortune, and he literally gives away more money than he makes every year, which is good man. Good man, Carl. Also, he writes like the Constitution.
Yeah, it really looks like that.
You cannot believe this gentleman's handwriting.
It's incredible.
It is wild. Shout out to Carl. We love you. Welcome to the today's cruise show. Zach and I are preparing for a little trip we're taking tomorrow to Knoxville. I can't believe I'm going to Knoxville twice in a month, but here we are.
Who goes to Santiago, Chile twice in 1 year?
We're going to test drive the new Polaris RZR XP, which is the new one.
The newest.
I think it's the fast one. I think the RZR Pro XP. Go up. The XP and the Pro XP. That looks fun as fuck.
Yes, it is such a good time.
I've never been on a press launch. I've been on a bunch of car ones, obviously. Couple motorcycle ones. The motorcycle press launches are kind of interesting. They're a little different than the car ones. And I've never been on a UTV press launch or anything like that. So I have no idea really what to expect. Although they did tell me that there is a drive route through this wilderness, and then I was like, I can't get video by myself. You have to bring Zach too. And part of me was like, that's true. I literally could not do it by myself. But also, I knew Zach would have a very good time doing this.
Just
and
oversteering jumps.
Yeah, and you got to look out for your boy. When someone says, do you want to come to Tennessee and drive fucking side-by-sides, you got to look out for your homies when you do that shit.
It's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
Do you know, is it like a 10-mile route and we go in circles and trade? Or
no, I don't think
like
so. I think it's like a 100-mile loop.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
cool.
why when I saw the thing, that's when I was like, I cannot.
Yeah.
I can't get drive-bys. I can't get any of those things that we need to make a good video if I'm by myself. I just can't do it. So, we're both going to drive. It's not the Matt Farah show anymore. But I think it should be fun as fuck.
It'd be super fun.
And I saw the list of people, journalists who are attending as part of my itinerary. Not only do I not know any of them, I've never even heard of one of them, which is certainly, I see that as a good thing. Meet some new people in this industry. Who fucking knows? Could be great.
Yeah. I wonder if there's people that they started in motorcycles and then they cover these, or if they're just fixed on side-by-sides. And because it's a big industry. A lot of different companies make products for this market.
Yeah, because these started as ATVs before, right? And then we needed a more comfortable ATV. So it's not a big leap from motorcycle to ATV to this.
Zach Bowman for a year ran a digital magazine that was just about side-by-sides.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get the numbers yet, but I've been told that they sell more of these every year than most popular sports cars in the U.S. More of these than Corvettes and Caymans, and maybe not Mustangs, but certainly more. They sell more side-by-sides than 2-seat road-going sports cars every year. They're very, very popular, and why shouldn't they be? They're cheap. I mean, even a really fast one of these is $25,000. I'm not trying to be elitist and pretend $25,000 is cheap, but that's $299 a month.
Well, it's even with one of the cheapest passenger cars you can buy today. Brand new. I mean, that's Corolla.
Yeah, it's cheaper than a car. Most cars. And the desert and the places without tarmac are some of the last kind of places in this country where you can have silly fun and shit, without getting way out of hand or being very, very dangerous. So I'm very excited for this. I think it should be fun as fuck. Do you have a number?
I was trying to find a number, but it's all just Polaris in general, and that was $9 billion, which is a lot.
That's a lot
in revenue.
Yeah, $9 billion seems like a lot.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out, but they're very, very popular.
I asked them to get that
reason.
number for me, how many units moved. But I hope it's the little 2-seater ones. They seem more fun than the 4-seater ones.
Oh, I've seen the Can-Am ones, different company I know,
Yeah.
and they have a longer wheelbase, which is beneficial.
These guys do too. If you go back to the models, they had a 4-seat one as well.
Cool.
But ours is the RZR XP, which is according to the line the model lineup was the 2-seat one. Go to Explore lineup, right down there. Yeah. Trail S, XP R, Turbo
there
R.
you go.
Yeah, the XP4.
Right.
So maybe they will have the 4-seater ones. Holy shit, Pro R4, that one's $42,000?
Yeah.
Damn.
181 horsepower.
Yeah, that's probably
And they
fast.
do with the wide stance on it.
so it's
74-inch
like-
wide.
So that's like for yumpie. 74-inch wide.
That's
like
wide
a
track.
fucking Bronco.
I think like the M2 is about that wide.
Yeah, that's pretty wide. Anyway, I'm excited. I think it should be great. Not really looking forward to getting up at 3 a.m. for our flight tomorrow, but it's okay.
Oh my God, I know.
Oh, I just watched the Some More News today on the elliptical machine about why the airlines suck. Shocking to know it's basically about. It's not partisan, actually. It's totally bipartisan shittiness. But it's basically deregulation. Deregulation and the worship of profits.
Impartial greed.
Just straight up greed. Right. One correction from previous crew shows. In the Patreon Q&A portion of a previous crew show, someone asked about the HOV carpool lane stickers on EVs, and I said something that was not quite correct. It wasn't totally incorrect, but a fan named McLean Neville, shout out to him, corrected me, and with a good citation to back it
The
up.
adopted Neville brother.
Right.
From
I
Ireland.
said you had to choose between the federal tax credit and the HOV sticker. That's not correct. It's the state tax credit, which is called the Clean Air Vehicle Program.
Okay.
The federal and the California carpool lane system have nothing to do with each other. So there's a $7,500 federal tax credit. Across the board, those are the tax credit rules. The Clean Air Vehicle Program is $2,000 in California, and it's a rebate, not a tax credit. And you have to choose between that rebate and the sticker for the carpool lane, but only if you make over $150,000 a year, or if you make over $300,000 if you file as a married couple, joint filers.
So if you make under 150
under
grand,
150K a year, you can get the rebate and you can get the $2,000 tax credit.
Got it.
Sorry, the rebate and the sticker.
if you make over that, you only get one.
Correct.
Oh, cool.
If you are
Okay.
Rico and Suave, you
Right.
have to pick one, Rico or Suave.
And you're picking HOV
And
for
you
sure.
definitely, I would pay 2 G's off the top of the vehicle to get HOV lane for sure. But because the reason I kind of wrote it off is because between my wife and I, we do make over $300,000, and so we didn't get it. And you also do, I was right, you have 60 days from the date of purchase, so if you bought your car a year ago, you can't go back and do it. But it was, thank you, McLean, because it's not the federal tax credit, it's the $2,000 California rebate that you have to choose between, and only if you are $150,000 or above. Below 150K, you can get both as long as you file within 60 days of buying a new EV. You cannot do it with a used EV.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you for the correction. We are not perfect. We are happy to admit when we get stuff wrong, especially when we get very nice and friendly emails from people correcting us.
Helpful
That's
email.
Totally fine. I know what people watching the video are thinking. Why do I have a fucking Band-Aid on my head? Let me tell you something. Safety razors, not so safe, as it turns out.
No.
Fell for one of those Instagram ads that was like, no more ingrown hairs. Shave like your fucking dad used to. These cartridge razors are bullshit. They're trying to get you by saying with these funky animations that are showing how the normal razor, like the mass-produced razors that we have now, where it's like 4 or 5 blades on the front, on a nice pivoting head. They're saying that the way that those shave with the multiple blades, you end up getting more razor bumps, ingrown hairs, etc., And I get those once in a while. So I saw on Instagram promoted tweet, use one of these. I don't want to say the name of it, but it's a more like old school single blade style, not like the 1800s.
Yeah, not a flat blade.
Not a fucking flip out shit,
Yeah.
you know, like a
Straight razor,
pocket
that's what
knife.
it's called.
Not one of those. But the safety razor one, it's a single blade. It looks like the shit from the 50s. So I got one, and I was so nervous. And I watched all these YouTube videos. Yeah, one of these. Best safety razors.
All right.
It's probably, the one I got is probably on the list of the 11 best safety razors. And, you know, I buzz my head. I use the Brio Beardscape. Love it. Buzz my head and face. And then I get in the shower. I've got a mirror in the shower. Fucking lather it up. The steam. I let it sit.
I'm already like cringing.
Bro, I cut about a dime size hole in my head with the very first stroke of the razor.
Ow.
2 inches in. I'm out.
Yeah.
Turns out the science has moved on past these. I am not fucking about it.
Head wounds bleed too.
Dude, I was a gusher.
They do.
It was fucking terrible. And I'm in the shower, so it's wet, and it's getting in the shaving cream, and now I've got like blood-stained shaving cream all over my head.
What? I don't understand how this would be better than the new system. I
Well,
just don't.
the advertising says that with a single blade, it cuts the hair off.
Okay.
But with multi blades, the first blade actually pulls the hair kind of out. The next blade cuts it, and then when it drops back, it goes underneath the skin, producing a shave that's smoother on the first day, but then some of the time it produces an ingrown hair or irritant.
I haven't had that many problems with that. Like,
You know, I don't have that many problems, but it's something that comes up once in a
every
while.
now and then, I think. But
anyway.
I would much rather have an ingrown hair like every 6 months
Than a fucking gash on your head like I've got right now? 100%.
Yeah, your head's like a carrot that's getting processed.
It's not good. No, it's not good. It was terrible. It was terrible. I'm fucking, and the thing was $50. It wasn't cheap. It was fucking.
Can you return it, or they'd be like, "Sorry, it has blood on it."
Sorry, it's got like a fucking dime-sized bit of skin stuck in there. Terrible.
What were we watching? Clarkson's Farm season 2 when he just shaves his thumb off in the deli slicer.
Fucking terrible.
Shit, I don't know how he did that.
God damn, that
really
was
don't.
terrible. It wasn't a deli slicer. It was a mandolin.
Oh yeah.
Which, if you don't know how to use a mandolin, don't use a goddamn mandolin.
He went in so confident. He did it so confidently. I thought it was like a joke, like a plant. I was like, "This is a fix," and I was like, "Nope, that's."
His confidence for that was the opposite of my confidence with shaving my head. I was terrified that the exact thing that happened would happen.
Yeah.
It happened right away. What the first stroke, dude?
Your head and his thumb can go to therapy together.
Crazy.
It's in a circle.
Right. So last week, I got a free motorcycle. Did we talk about that on the show yet?
We talked about it when it was pending or like
What
maybe
happened?
going to happen.
Homie showed up in a truck, and the dude who gave it to me, his name is Matt. He doesn't want any public recognition. He doesn't want me to. I mean, I did do a post, but I didn't tag him in it. He didn't want any recognition. He just wanted it to go to a good home, and so the Matt Farah home of wayward Italian old things is in full effect. It's a very pretty bike.
Yeah.
It's a
Ducati 900.
2002 Ducati 900 Super Sport, which has an air-cooled 900cc V-twin, desmodromic valves, and then the famous Ducati dry clutch, which goes clack 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 clack. And that has an exhaust on it that I think is meant for a Yamaha, possibly. Someone in the comments said that the mufflers on this bike are meant for a Japanese bike, but okay,
all right,
sure.
Do they fit and sound good?
I mean, you heard it.
Yeah.
Sounds all right.
Sounds like a Ducati to me.
Does, yeah. And I'm not sure, other than maintenance, a free motorcycle is something I want to spend a bunch of money on. I think maybe I'll ride it a little bit. I got a big stack of service records. In fact, he was going to give it to me 2 weeks ago, but he found an oil leak and took it to service. and had it serviced.
Wow, what a nice dude.
So it has fresh oil. The oil leak is fixed, and it has a new chain on it as well.
That's awesome.
Which is pretty cool. The only thing about it is I'm not sure I can ride it. The bars are very aggressive, sport bike, leaned over.
Yeah, the clip-on bars.
Yeah. What is the definition of clip-on bars?
I think it's because they bolt to the stem, whereas like original motorcycle bars, were bolted on top and went across.
Oh,
They're just the edges.
Right.
That's
I
what
didn't
I
know
took
what
them to
that
mean.
term means.
Like my SV had those, whereas it came with like a traditional bar.
Oh, do you think that's not the bars that came with?
No, I think it probably is because this is like a sporty bike.
Yeah. But I'm looking for possible alternatives for those handlebars that might either like an extender or a riser of some kind. It's not high on my priority list right now because, I got shit to do. But either way, I will take care of this bike that has been gifted to us. I told Vinny he could put some miles on it once in a while.
Yeah.
But
does he still have his TL? This is kind of like
Vinny
the fancy
has his
version.
TL.
Okay.
It's downstairs. Vinny got, for commuting, a fucking BMW R1800 bagger, which is like, he's like, bro, I got a good deal on it. I'm like, bro, this bike is 850 pounds.
How do you split lanes with the bag?
On the
I know
10,
you can.
On
but
the fucking 10.
Yeah.
So I know I just went a little inside baseball there. But lane splitting is legal in California, which is one of the reasons that motorcycles are a great way to get around. But lane splitting motorcycles on the freeway, not all freeways are the same. Freeways such as the 405, the 105, and the 110 and have carpool lanes. And the lanes that divide the hard lane that divides the carpool lane from the rest of the traffic is a little wider.
Yes.
So it's not like splitting lanes in between. Yeah. It's not like splitting lanes on the 10 where there is no carpool lane and it's just a regular dotted line. The 405 has it's 5 or 6 feet separating, and a couple other highways do too. So
it's basically a motorcycle lane.
Yeah,
It's
so you
the way
can
it's
lane
treated.
split on a bagger in certain highways, but not all of them. And so I don't know how Vinny's lane splitting on the 10 is fucking giant. A bagger with a fucking huge wide engine also. The boxer engine on the BMWs. The heads stick way out too.
But that's like a cat's whiskers. If the engine won't fit, the bags won't fit.
Yeah, it's got like it's got all the gear in it.
It's nice.
He did ride it all the way to Encinitas for John's funeral.
Yeah, that's what it's for.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a GT bike.
Yeah, and it's got some real German shit in it, but it's also like the drive modes are like rock and roll, like. It's also like total boomer shit.
Wow. Well, they were going after that market. That's what they're. Yeah.
Like, what do we do? What do we name these drive modes so the American red hats will buy it? Rock and roll.
Yeah. They went for it. They went to a Harley Davidson barbecue once, like at a dealership, and they were like, "All right."
Yes. So anyway, I'm excited about this Ducati. Shout out to Smoking Tire viewer Matt. But I don't really know what I'll do with it. I'd like to ride it a little bit, but in its current configuration, I really can't ride it. I'd have my fucking tendonitis in both my elbows.
How much higher do you need the bars to be, like realistically?
I mean, I wouldn't put like big cruiser bars on it or anything, but like if you could fit the bars off of a Monster onto this, that might be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah. They're pointed down, they're down there.
No, I know, yeah.
This bike is meant to be like lean over it, but it runs good. It seems like it's in pretty good shape. Everyone's like, get the belts checked, which, okay, maybe we'll have to do that, but I have to go through all the service records and ask. That might have been done recently.
I'm looking at the internet, there's some aftermarket stuff for bar risers. So I think you'll be able to get a little bit of help.
Yeah. So free motorcycles are good, and so we're listing a client's car on Cars and Bids right now. It's a very nice Lucid Air Grand Touring. By the time the show is up, go check it out. You'll notice the pictures were taken at WCCS. So it's like 1,500 miles. Grand Touring performance, white, pretty much just like the one that we made a film with. White, black interior, all the go fast stuff, and there's really no other options. That's what the car is. But man, the reserve that Cars and Bids requested is low. You know, this is a car that was 180 grand in September. It's traveled 1,000 miles and change, and Cars and Bids wants $100,000 reserve. So this
60%,
this thing has lost, you know, and they're basing that reserve price on 2 recent sales. There was a sale in February at 110, and then a no sale in March that only got up to 98. So either way, Lucid is not looking so good on the secondhand market. Conversely, if you could get a Lucid that's basically brand new, Grand Touring Performance, for 110 grand, that's a shitload of car.
That is an amazing
for 110
car.
grand.
And it feels like it's worth more than that. I mean, because it sells for more than that. But what do you think is contributing to that? Like people's worry about new manufacturer or just kind of being unknown?
Both. I think the market for $180,000 startup EV is limited. I think that it doesn't present like something that is necessarily as expensive as it is. I mean, you don't look at a Lucid and go $180,000. You look at it and you think it's maybe $120,000 or to $140,000 to me.
Yeah, the interior is definitely like mid 100s.
Yeah,
but the exterior, depending on what you like in cars, can look a little bit simple, I guess.
And also like we're now used to all these EVs being really fast, and so the fact that it is incrementally quicker than the Plaid, it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
Yeah,
and you're getting, you know, the used buyer, shopper is like, well, I could get a Tesla Model S Plaid that comes with the charging network and the name and the reliability, you know, asterisk, whatever you want to say. But this is like a new company, you know.
Yeah,
are they going to be here in a few years? No offense to Lucid, like I like the product, but we don't know.
There's been some like bad news about them on a corporate level that doesn't have a lot to do with how the car is made. The quality seems pretty good on the car, but it's, you know, when you hear bad news about the company, you're not necessarily inclined to spend 180 grand on the cars.
Right.
And also, this particular customer tried to trade it in at dealers and for another semi-exotic sedan. He already has a sports car or two, and this was a daily driver. He traded out of he hated his Tesla Plaid, and got this. He hated the yoke, and so he got this. And he drove this for like a couple months, and he was like, not really for me. He said it was like it was an okay car, but like it didn't like, you know, for the amount of money it cost, it didn't like tickle him. So he wants something else. But he was going to try and trade it in, and a lot of the dealers don't want to take it on trade because they don't really know, you know, what to do with it.
Yeah.
And so
that's a tough spot.
Right.
I mean, you're looking at, can you imagine just going, I'm about to lose. Maybe. We don't know what the final sale will be, but if the reserve is a loss of $70,000.
Yeah, I mean, on a good day, he's going to lose 50 or 60 grand. You know, on a good day.
Yeah.
He knows this. Like, we've discussed this, and like, he's like, yeah, well, this sucks, but, you know, if it doesn't hit reserve, maybe he'll keep it and drive it because it's worth it to just do that. It's a nice car. There's nothing wrong with it. I drove it today because I had to make a little video of it driving. You know, they like, you know, cars.
Cold start it.
Obviously, yeah. You know, it's a standard form, right? But they want you to do a walk around and a cold start and a drive. And I messaged the Cars and Bids guy, and I'm like, do I really need to do this? Like, this is a brand new EV, and they're like, the auctions do better if there is a video. So just. If you can do it, just do it, even though it seems kind of dumb.
And it makes sense to demonstrate all the systems. The cold start is funny, though. It's like, can you cold start this light switch? I mean, it should work. Yeah.
I understand why that standardized form is there.
Oh, hell yes.
Yeah,
yes.
But in a brand new EV, it doesn't really.
With an ICE car, you definitely need to hear a cold start. If you're buying a car, people, every time, go to that person's house to look at it, feel that engine. Is it warm? Be suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But man, I think it's tough if you either bought a Lucid and don't like it and you're trying to get out of it. It's about to be tough times. But if you want a Lucid and you don't want to spend $180,000, like I think Kyle Connor's dad got one,
like super used,
cheap, like a new used. a couple thousand miles. Kyle Connor from, of course, all the EV reviews and out of spec motoring and rate your charge. He was on the show recently, but his dad bought a Lucid, had an order in for a new one, found a used one for like very, very cheap, maybe 30, 40% off new MSRP, and canceled his order for a new one. So if you want to get a Lucid, you might be able to get one for...
There's only one on Auto Trader right now. Well, eBay, but whatever. It's got 288 miles on the clock, and it is listed for $129. It is a Lucid Air, Grand Air Touring Performance.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what this one is. So that's a lot. That's $50,000 off the retail.
Yeah.
So
they're nice. I saw a dark red one the other day on the highway. It was like,
red is good.
Good color.
Red with gold, red with champagne, or red with silver.
With silver, but it's like a dark burgundy with some flake.
That's
good
nice.
red.
Yeah, that could be good. But I just, I found when the client wanted to had a reserve of 120 and Cars and Bids was like, can't do it, got to do 100. I was like, oof, tough times.
Yeah.
That's tough times.
It's the early adopter, it's the price of it, right?
I guess. I mean, maybe the demand just isn't there the way that Lucid hoped it was, or maybe it's the strength or weakness of the stock, how the company itself is doing, or I follow the out of spec motoring on Twitter, and one of the things, I think Kyle's dad was driving this thing like across the country or some very long road trip, and he said he had made a pretty high volume of charging stops. It was more than 10, and he had yet to see even once 350 kilowatts delivered to the car. So even though the car is, and I retweeted it actually yesterday or the day before, the car is this amazing 900 volt architecture. The car is capable of taking on charge faster than any other EV on the market right now, but there is no infrastructure,
that can do
except in a couple select places on a very lucky day that will support that type of charging speed.
Interesting. I'm reading a news report from 2022. They cut their production guidance in half back in 2022, but they said at the time they had plenty of demand. They had 37,000 reservations for the Air sedan. So they had a lot of reservations, and they were just a little slower on delivering them. So I don't know. Not sure what's going on.
I mean, maybe it's a case of the fact that the client for a new one only wants a new one. They don't want to buy the used ones.
Possible.
And I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. But it's interesting to see.
Yeah.
That's really all I have on my list right now. I don't have a lot else to talk about. I drove my M3 for the first time in a month, and it was delightful as always. Every time I drive that car, I'm reminded why I have it. For a second, I thought about selling it after we had our little C3 Corvette chat, and then I drove it, and I was like, I cannot imagine a stupid C3 Corvette being a better experience than this.
No.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So nice.
My friend texted me the other day. He said, what muscle cars could deliver Porsche GT3 driving feedback? And I said,
does not exist.
Zero.
Not even close.
Even you'd have to go full Detroit speed and spend $200,000 to $300,000, and it might get in the neighborhood.
Yeah, you'd have to spend more.
Yeah.
Mary Posey's Camaro is on Bring a Trailer right now. Whoa. You could buy that. That would get you pretty close.
It does, yes.
If you literally bought Mary Posey's car.
Yeah, she was a
She
champion.
won Ultima Street Car Invitational, like super autocross champion.
Like top 5 Pro Touring autocross for years and years in a row. Yeah.
And her 1970 Camaro is on Bring a Trailer right now.
Fucking sweet,
and it's amazing. Yeah, it's a beautiful car. Really, really like sorted.
Yes.
But even so, it's not going to do it. But God, that M3 is fucking just so nice. Just such a nice car. Go check out our Lotus Emira review. It is up now. Not for the Patreon people listening to this live, but if you're listening to this show on Thursday, the 13th, by the day it comes out or after that, the Emira video will be up on the YouTubes. Note, if some of those drive-bys look slow, it's because Spinelli was driving. Because he wanted to have a go, and I was like, drive for a few drive-bys, Spinelli. And he was slightly slow. Before we get to the Patreon today, what did you think about what Ed Zitron had to say, Zach?
How to sum that up? I really like his newsletter, and then I felt like when he was here, he got spun up. You know,
Yeah.
like he got a little spun up on some topics and like hammered him really hard.
Yeah.
And I was kind of surprised by that, but because his newsletter is like seemed very measured and kind of even and factual. But it's like now I know what the fire is that makes that newsletter happen.
Right.
That, you know, that is he came in and showed us the engine room, as
Right.
it were.
Yeah. Well, not everybody, myself sometimes included, can take an eloquent argument and dispassionately present it in front of a microphone.
No, I can't do that.
Yeah, it's a very hard thing to do.
Especially when it's a complicated topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something that makes you mad.
Very true.
He's like, part of what makes his newsletter and other newsletters great, it's like, because these are the things that make me mad because we're getting fucked here. Mm-hmm. We're getting fucked by people that certain individuals are propping up as the saviors of the world, and they're actually fucking us. And so that gets you the fire, like you said, that causes, when put into eloquently typed out words and legal fact checked and all that kind of stuff, maybe edited a little bit. He crafts an amazing argument, but when kind of put on the spot in front of a microphone, sometimes the hate flows
Right.
freely.
Yeah, the hate flows through.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to besmirch him because, you know, great art or writing comes from like a place of passion.
Yeah.
And you have to be really interested or have a strong feeling about a topic to create art or, you know, write something that, you know, really comes through and kind of breaks through the noise today.
Yeah.
So I think we got to see that.
Well, there are people who can present that type of hate in a really like sort of calm and sort of factual way. Like, shout out again to Cody Johnston from Some More News. Granted, I'm 100% certain he's reading a teleprompter,
Right.
You know, or John Oliver, or, you know, other people like that, where if those same folks try to go freeform, it's not the same thing.
Jon Stewart is amazing at it, but he's
Yeah.
been doing it for 40 years,
Yeah,
30 years.
He's probably the most practiced, and I think he got way better at going off script once he started actually spending time in Washington and dealing with that system personally.
That's true. That's true.
You know, he was doing the teleprompter thing.
Very true.
And now he still is on a lot of his shows, but in his interviews back and forth, he's on the fly, and he's able to fucking keep it together pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Ed's newsletter, and it was really interesting to have him on, but I could see the rage.
I think his Elon impression's
strong.
pretty good. Like, I heard it the first time I went, did he just do? And then like the third time I went, that's solid.
Yeah,
that's real solid.
It is. Ugh. His sense of humor is so bad. Elon's.
Right.
The,
Okay.
The shit he puts on Twitter is like literally stuff I think was funny in like 7th grade. Like, it's not. It's like, you're 51. Like, you're so unoriginal.
I haven't read it. I muted some accounts.
I fucking blocked him, but enough people fucking send that shit back into my feed. I can't. I try,
Right.
literally try to ignore it.
But if you hit
actively.
notifications to read about a Camaro post, then you're like right below it. Someone said, "Did you see
always
this?"
there.
Yeah.
It's just always there. Right. Well, that's all that's on my list right now. Shout out to my Ferrari 328 for holding my golf clubs.
Oh yeah,
Went golfing.
I saw that.
Yeah,
It's a good trunk.
328 holds golf clubs. That's fucking a practical car.
That is amazing.
Very, very
It'd be
nice.
fun to park that next to a C8 Camaro and look at the butts.
Yeah. Ferrari could do it.
Different engine layout. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, longitudinal versus transverse.
Yeah,
but
yeah. They could do it in 86. The fuck, bro?
Well, crash standards were different back then. I will give Chevy that. You know,
Yeah, but it's more. I don't care. It's better.
it is better.
more
It is better
practical.
looking.
Tanner Burke says, last December I hit a deer with my Pontiac G8. I'm looking for a replacement. Torn between a 97 JDM Accord SIR modestly modified, or should I be going for something cheaper and more stealth, like a Buick, like a 2000 to 2005 Buick that's built like a tank while still being comfortable take the money I'll save and put it into my weekend car, an '84 Camaro. Couple of things about this question.
Yeah.
One is, I can't tell you what you want to do here.
Yeah.
This is not a, it's not a, these two cars are in the same category, but I can't test drive them, so what do you think? This is, should I buy a 26-year-old Japanese Accord or a 20-year-old Buick?
So that I can put money into my 40-year-old Camaro.
40-year-old Camaro. Like, I mean, I have a tough time with this one because a 2000 Buick, even if it's built like a tank, it's not like that car's going to run forever without maintenance, and it's not like it's going to be as comfortable as it once was. Mm-hmm. Unless you put brand new shocks and bushings and shit in that kind of car, it's just going to be like an old beater at this point. There's nothing nice about a 2000 Buick.
Right.
Like, it's going to have blown out seats. It's going to have, at this point, that's an old car that wasn't even that great when it was new. And comfortable is a pretty relative term when talking about a 20-year-old Buick.
It just depends on what condition it's in. I mean, this question, like,
well, he's talking about cheaper than $8,000.
Right.
That's the cheap. So if it's the cheaper option,
an Alero or something,
it's probably
Oldsmobile.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be that great.
Yeah.
Let's just assume it's probably not going to be that great. It's not like he's saying, should I buy the world's nicest Buick? I think you're more, if you've already got the '84 Camaro, you're probably better off buying a JDM SIR Accord. It'll probably be made better than the Buick. Mm-hmm. It'll probably even be more comfortable than the Buick, honestly. And if you have to put money into it to maintain it or upgrade it, at least it's going into a car that someone else might want down the road.
Yes. It's more collectible. It's more popular with our generation of car enthusiasts. I think, again, this goes to like, what do you want out of a car? To me, the Accord is both more comfortable and more sporting than either the Buick or the Camaro, unless your Camaro is really modified.
Yeah.
So you're kind of getting a daily that could be more fun. You might get two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Just it totally. This is very subjective though. Like, we don't know your Camaro. We don't know what you're doing with it. Is it your dream?
I think the thing to focus on about this question is that he's making assumptions about this Buick that might not be true. Built like a tank, reliable and comfortable, could be highly variable terms when you're talking about a cheap 20-year-old Buick.
True.
Highly variable. It might end up being a complete shitbox. Greg Scott says, listening to the My Guy episode, you were discussing the new Z and some of its shortcomings. What sort of improvements could Nissan make to improve it? I know it's still based in the 370 underneath. Is that where most of the problems stem from? I mean, the shortcomings, it's a soft car. The suspension is soft. The brakes are pretty soft. Like, it's a lot of the same things that you would have if you drove a non-performance pack Mustang GT. It's meant for everybody, even though they're probably going to sell most of them to pretty hardcore enthusiasts. So they're just, it's kind of like the 86 also, where it's like you got to finish it yourself. But the 86 does start from a higher place of competence than the Z.
Well, I think the 86 is focused more on driving, cornering. Like, they know that that's what their market's a little more interested in, and I think the Z is a little broader, and some people just cruise on the highway, or they just modify it for speed, or they just want to drive around comfortably but have something that looks stylish and goes kind of quick.
Yeah, it's not a bad car. It's just unfocused to me. So in theory, what would make that better? Like a Nismo version that was good. Nissan has a pretty bad track record of Nismo versions and how they actually execute. The Nismo 370 and the Nismo 350Z were not good, but make a good Nismo version, I would say.
The only time I drove the 370Z Nismo was on a track, so I have total rose-colored glasses because it was like, I'm having fun. Isn't this great?
Yeah. Tony Salgado says, do you know when it's time to upgrade to a newer or different car? Is it when a car has multiple issues or when you see the new exciting shiny thing? Interesting. Every time I've sold a car, it has been because that car no longer fits the stage of my life that I've moved into. Whether that means going from when I had a Ford Raptor and I traded it for a Chevy Volt, it was because I realized that the Raptor was just big and ungainly, and actually the Volt was better for driving around the city than the Raptor.
And we weren't doing big shoots anymore. You didn't need the jib off the Raptor.
Right.
Like that production was kind of ending.
Yeah. Now, it's not necessarily the same thing as what you're asking if you're talking about going from, if you have the same job and roughly the same lifestyle, just going from one car to another. I would say do not get into the trap of the new exciting shiny thing. That's how people end up like way upside down on their loans.
84-month payments or whatever. I think a good rule is if you've stopped really enjoying it. Like you've sold cars like the Raptor when you were done with that part of the task or that part of life. There's also cars where you're like, like DeLorean. You weren't enjoying driving it as much as you thought you would, so the fizz had worn off a bit. So if someone has that, like, my car has issues, but I still like it. But if you have a car that has multiple issues and you're over the experience, like you can find a new experience. That's a
good thought. Nate M says, I bought a older Lexus years ago. My 350 wheel horsepower turbo IS 300 finally died after 80,000 fun daily driver miles. I want to replace it with a fun, reliable, worry-free performance sedan with similar power for the mid-$20,000 range. Why or why not is a first-gen CTSV my best option? A nice ISF or M3 is proving very difficult to find. Well, your price point is tough. Your price point is too low to get a great ISF or M3.
Yeah.
CTSV first gen is a decent powertrain, although those rear diffs I hear have trouble over time. But it's a plasticky, shitty 20-year-old General Motors product at this point.
It will feel
it's
less
not
luxurious
a nice
than
car.
the IS 300, which is older.
Yeah.
I would say like M340i. Like it seems like what you want is, 300 horsepower turbo. All right, then BMW makes that, and it's not an M, but it's going to be fast. It'll feel nice inside.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a nice 135 or 335i sedan and handle the reliability issues that the N54 engine has. Like, that engine has some issues, but they're known quantities and can be addressed.
Oh, that's true. I forgot he said worry. They said worry.
He said worry-free. I mean, good, fast, or cheap, pick two.
Yeah.
I would argue that your IS 300, the first gen IS 300 overperformed in terms of like niceness and quality. I think that's a nice car, and if you put a turbo on it and you made it fast and it didn't die for a long time, you did pretty well there. There's not a direct replacement for that.
True.
As far as I know. I mean, maybe.
Well, also, he had to modify his IS 300 and put a turbo on it. They didn't sell that one here. So you took a car that was not fast, really, from the factory and did a bunch of stuff to it.
Right. You might be able to get into an S4, Audi S4, or an S3, maybe.
Yeah.
You could definitely get a Golf R in the 20s.
That's a good solution.
And do some bolt-ons and pretty much get to that
like
point.
a Mark 7, pretty nice inside. That's a good solution. I'd say that.
I think you should look at great hot hatches, like great ones. You could probably get into a Focus ST or a Fiesta ST that would have less power but would be lighter and would be very fun.
ats-v, is that cheap?
I don't know about 20, maybe 20s. I don't know. That'd be if they came down that much, I'd be impressed. I don't know if they're that cheap. That price point is tough because you're not going to get a nice, fast, reliable car. You got to pick.
Yeah. adding reliable to that, because you're talking depreciated speed.
Yeah.
And depreciated speed is rarely that cheap unless it's a simple V8 or, an NA Japanese motor.
You know what could be funky? A 335D diesel.
Oh, yeah.
Probably less likely to have the shit beat out of it than a 335i. Surprisingly quick and good daily driver car, and flies under the radar a little bit.
Let's see. Someone said you can get a good GS 350 for $25K. That's true. You can't get the F Sport though. That's
GS 350 is nice. It's a nice car.
That is a very nice car.
That's a nice car. It's a good recommendation. Yeah. Y2K Punk says, what vintage Porsche livery would you put on your first gen Nissan Leaf commuter car? The Butcher. The pink pig Butcher.
Yeah, I mean that's the only fun one, right?
I mean,
like Gulf, no.
I hope this person isn't actually going to put a vintage
I think
livery.
It's a joke.
I think it's a hypothetical.
Yeah.
But that's certainly, that one or the psychedelic is the most fun.
Oh, I'd go psychedelic.
Purple and green psychedelic.
Yeah,
that's
I would
a
do
fun
that.
one. Yeah. Chris Nolke, it seems like the M2 is going to join the 992 GT3, where the previous one might actually be better. Does this seem like it's happening more recently or only as much as it ever has? I don't know about only as much as it ever has. I think we, every car kind of sees a peak, in the great ones, and then they use more technology and more power and more space and more, of this and that, that sometimes makes the car possibly a little worse.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of Porsche, it's all about the lap times, and so I think the pursuit of the lap time and the things you have to do to make a car faster on the track take away some of what makes it so great on the street. First generation Ford GT to second generation Ford GT, same thing. But I think it's happened before. Sorry.
They also usually improve something that needed improving or fixing from a previous generation. Like the chassis gets stiffer and stronger, therefore the car's more reactive, or like they have a traction control issue that gets more refined or something. Like there's usually steps forward, but there's also steps backwards or just new changes, like you said, because technology changes, the trends change, and with that, like, we might not like the new trend as much, but some
other people
customers do.
I mean, there's people. I've talked to a few people that are not necessarily massive gearheads. My boy Tim was over last night and told me he loves how the new M2 looks. Loves it. Okay, you're allowed.
Mm-hmm.
But is it happening more? No, not necessarily. It's always kind of happened. When the 911 went water cooled 25 years ago,
right,
people went batshit. Even though, looking back on it, it's definitely the right move to go water cooled. When the R50, I think the R53 Mini that they stopped making in 2006 was the best Mini they ever made. Why? Because they kept getting customer surveys saying we'd like more space. They kept making the car fucking bigger. Instead of going, hey, asshole, it's called Mini. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be small.
Yeah, buy the Clubman if you want more space.
Buy something bigger if you want something bigger. It's not significantly roomier inside. The car's just fucking bigger. And so, that stuff's been happening. But I think if you go back to like the 70s and 80s, for the most part, the new one did get a little better. But like the anniversary Countach was not better than the one before it.
Right. Well, and the cars in the 70s weren't necessarily better than the ones in the 60s in terms of performance because of new regulations.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of factors.
Yeah. But it's not entirely new. It's not new, and I don't think it's happening more now, although I think that as they the cars are definitely getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and heavier and heavier and heavier. So it's getting more pronounced for sure. Kurt Tennant says, have you heard of the Canoo EV? My brother is interested in one, but I've never heard of them, and I'm not super confident it would be a good choice. Well, it doesn't exist yet. It's like not. I think their CEO just quit.
Yeah, I just found a news story.
Last week.
They're having an issue. This was last year. Production begins at troubled EV company. Internal documents show parts are still missing.
Yeah.
And so they've hit some delays.
I wouldn't give them any money.
No.
I would definitely wait that. And if you want an electric van, there are electric vans. In fact, when is the Volkswagen one coming here? Isn't that this
Buzz?
year? ID Buzz, is that this year? I see the appeal. It's a cute looking thing, but they're making them in Europe right now. But I don't know when it's coming to America. I imagine that's a global product. I cannot possibly imagine that they would not sell that in America.
Oh, VW?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be a global product.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, it was inspired, like surf culture, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's coming right out of California.
But I would definitely not give Canoo any money until we're certain that vehicles are being delivered to customers.
Yeah, it looks like Volkswagen is hoping to start delivering the Buzz. Wants to start production in 2023.
Yeah.
So when delivery happens, we don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Gunnar Ray says, can I have both of your thoughts on the flooded P1? I think Freddie is in a position where he has to keep finding harder and harder challenges in order to keep his audience more interested. It's like a fucking junkie down there. You know?
Yeah, it's like Walking Dead. Every season they had to just find new ways to kill zombies and make it bigger and crazier and crazier.
Yeah, I mean, the car's fixable. Mm-hmm. It's 100% fixable. It's just like, what will it cost to get those parts? Now, fortunately, his business is monetizing misery. So if he can make a video that'll bring in $10, $20, $30, $40,000 every time he gets to a new phase of the repair of that car, he'll get there eventually.
It is very cool to see what can be fixed. I mean, we know this can be done because, like Mr. Bean, he crashed his McLaren F1 years ago, and they rebuilt it from like being split in half. So it's like, all right, I learned that could be done. But this, you can actually see it step by step, and I think it's pretty interesting. It's bold.
It is interesting. It's very bold. I learned that you can actually take a loan out to buy something like that. But this is what this dude does. He has a lot of confidence in himself, which is a great thing to have if you're doing stuff like that. And I think it'll be very hard.
Yeah.
But the harder and more frustrating it is, the more money he can make in the process. And so he has a business plan for doing it. And I think eventually he'll have a running car.
Yeah.
I have no reason to believe that he won't eventually have a running car.
Agree.
Good for fucking him.
Yeah.
I mean, good.
He already restored one McLaren, and it works.
And he said on the show that they're
like,
not that different.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities between those cars, and the knowledge he got fixing the one will help another. And it's not like he's 100% doing everything himself. He has partner shops that can fix carbon and do paint and body and stuff that he couldn't possibly do in his own garage. He has experts to help with who want to be featured in his videos. So, like, God bless, have fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. And he lives in fucking Florida. It's cheap as fuck to live down there.
Anything can be fixed. Like, I think it's just a matter of time, effort, and getting the parts. So if he can get the parts he needs, I think that would probably be one of the biggest snags with this is like,
if McLaren doesn't want to help, if McLaren themselves put up roadblocks, that would be bad.
Yeah. Like battery pack,
it's not like he can just
now.
make the battery pack. He'd have to get it from McLaren or from some other wrecked car. And I don't know how many wrecked out P1s there are. There's probably a couple, but I don't know how many there are where the battery pack is salvageable.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. Christian says, as someone who's never driven a scooter or Vespa, is there a learning curve? Also, is a Vespa better than a Saunders electric scooter? When I moved to SoCal, which one is best for a daily? I think Vespas are about as easy to ride as you could ever imagine. It's a twist throttle and two brake levers like a bike. It's not like there's no gears, at least not in a modern one. A vintage one would have gears. There's no clutch. It's very, very easy. You can rent them for a day. There's a place called Eagle Rider, and they rent motorcycles and scooters, and you can rent a scooter and try it for yourself. If you're talking about something that can actually be used as daily transportation, I don't think an electric bike is 100% replacement for something with a motor. I can go a lot of places on my Vespa that I can't go on my e-bike, even though I love my e-bike.
Yeah.
Not to mention the Vespa has the cargo box and the underseat storage, which is very clutch. You can get groceries, you can carry some basic shit around. Like, it's much more practical because of that cargo box.
And, you know, in my apartment, we have to walk up a flight of stairs. Sarah has an e-bike. It's really heavy to carry that up the stairs, and we don't feel safe locking it outside.
Yeah.
So I know some bikes have detachable batteries, which is good, but you just need to make sure this person's in Santa Monica, Venice, like, do you have secure parking for your bike?
Yeah.
Vespa is just not as attractive to steal because it's so much heavier.
Yeah.
And also, you know, e-bikes let you take the bike path and skip some traffic, but a Vespa lets you do that too. You know, you can lane split, you can go down the bike, like, you can't go on a bike path, but I'm saying you don't get stuck in gridlock behind cars.
Yeah.
So
e-bikes are awesome, but I agree with you on carrying them up the stairs. I pulled a fucking muscle in my ribs trying to carry my very heavy e-bike up the stairs at our old office. It was horrible. It was a terrible process.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to leave it outside, but how do I get it inside? And that was a bitch. And an e-bike is great, and if you're moving to this area, you get a lot of use out of it, but not as much as something with a motor. You don't have to get the 300. Start with the 125, especially if you're under like 175 pounds. That'll get you most of the way there. I definitely recommend Vespas, but they're not hard to ride at all. No, I totally recommend, if you're coming to California, taking the Motorcycle Safety Foundation like basic rider and licensing course.
Yeah.
You learn on motorcycles with gears, but that's a good thing to learn anyway, and they teach you the very, very basics. And when you finish the course, you have a license. And then you'll be much more confident. If you take this course on a motorcycle, it's like a Honda Rebel 250 with gears, going from that to a Vespa is like fucking child's play.
yeah, but that's a very good idea.
I totally recommend it. And they pay you to do it. Not the first, sorry. I think the first one, you pay them, and then they pay you to go back and do follow-up training. And I think you might have insurance reductions as well if you do the course. Okay, wait a minute. A lot of words from Richard James. Sorry there. Okay, let's pretend Fast and Furious was rebooted with 2023 car culture. Let's talk. What can we see on screen instead of Vin Diesel's RX-7 and Paul Walker's Supra? So what are the tuner cars of today?
Right.
It's an interesting question. I think
Paul might do GR Corolla, like some of the scenes.
those cars were like 6-7 years old at the time.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so we need cars from 2016.
I think you'd see a turbocharged BMW of some kind.
R35 GTR, probably.
Probably an R35 GTR, like a 2009 R35 GTR.
Any of them, they all look the same.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
A 996 turbo Porsche, maybe.
Yeah.
An STI,
Oh, definitely.
you know, or a STI, I mean, an Evo 10,
right.
Mitsubishi Evo 10 or Evo
course.
9.
Probably a Miata somewhere for
Definitely.
something.
Fiat 500.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Navio says okay, Chris Navio says, I talked about getting a C3 Corvette, but it doesn't fit a new driving niche because it does the same thing as the Ferrari. What other driving characteristics would I be interested in adding to the garage? What holes are missing in the First off, I don't need any more fucking cars. Let's just say that.
It's not about need.
It's not about need, for sure. I can't afford any more cars. Don't have anywhere else to keep them. Don't really want them. I think it would be fun to have, like, if I could have like a K5 Blazer, like a really nice Blazer from the 80s, that could be fun. Or like an OJ
that
Bronco.
Or the two-door Tahoe from the late 90s.
Oh, a really good two-door Tahoe from the late 90s would be good, but I like the idea of taking the top off. I think a convertible SUV would be fun. So it would be like, not like a 60s Bronco, because those things are just shit boxes unless you're going with Icon, but like a really nicely done K5 Blazer, or a 90s Bronco, but with the hard top taken off. I love that look where the back seat is like outside.
It looks good.
I'm into that. I think a two-door SUV from the 90s. I almost wanted to enter Cletus's giveaway for that two-door Tahoe he had with the LT4 swap and the 10-speed. I was into that. That was fucking cool. Good for Cletus.
You should have would buy a T-shirt and get an entry or something.
Yeah, I think people would call fraudamars if I won.
Oh,
I don't think.
Of course, another YouTuber gets it.
I don't think I would be. Feel comfortable winning, but
I definitely have entered one Hoonigan giveaway. I bought a beanie and I was like, I would love to win that car.
What was the car?
I think it was like an R33 or something.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I would do that.
And I could definitely at some point get another Skyline. I do. The only car I actually miss that I don't have now is my Skyline. It was so fucking nice, and they're just such great cars. Andy in Colorado, suggestions on how to buy a vintage watch. Even with some of the there's reports of people having bad experiences even with very known and brand name vintage dealers. Vintage watches are tough. I don't know. I don't. People have definitely bought watches that are not historically accurate or have. The problem with vintage watches is so I'm wearing a vintage watch. This is a good example. I'm wearing a 1966 Omega Speedmaster. I bought it from Craft and Tailored. The Craft and Tailored guys, I think, are ethical folks, and they sell great stuff at a variety of price points. They have stuff that's $1,000. They have stuff that's $200,000. This watch, I think I paid an appropriate price for because it is a very highly desirable case and dial that is close to the Neil Armstrong watch. It's within a couple months of when Neil Armstrong's watch was produced. But it has easily identifiable service hands. The hands aren't original. The lume is way too bright for those to be original. And as it turns out, it also has a service movement. The movement is the case and dial are from 1966. The movement is from 1968. Okay? Does anyone really give a shit when I'm wearing it what the numbers on the movement say? No. Nobody cares. Does anybody really care what the hands? No. But if this same watch had original hands and a numbers matching movement, I paid about $6,000 for this watch. It would be $30,000 if those things matched. So that's what you're getting into with a vintage watch. And so when people can mix and match parts, and if you don't know what you're buying, know what to look for, what not to look for, etc., you can get fucked. And so like the question about do you want to buy something that is investment grade, or do you just want something that's nice and cool looking to wear, where what's inside in terms of numbers matching or service parts don't really matter? Our friend Kyle Kennard, who writes about cars, has a Rolex Daytona that is non-numbers matching, like this watch. And if it was numbers matching, it probably would be $100,000. Because it's not, it's probably more like 15 to 20. When you see it on his wrist, you go, damn, you are fucking balling right now. That you write about cars and you're wearing that watch. And he's honest. He goes, well, it's this and this and this. But if you don't know, he's wearing a fucking heavy piece.
Whoa.
It's really cool, actually. It's a beautiful, beautiful watch, but the movement doesn't match. So that's the difference between, something that it's the same thing as a car. You get a fucking car and the number stamped on the engine block doesn't match the VIN, and the car, even though it drives the same, it works the same, 95% of people don't give a fuck. The only people that care are the people selling it to you and the person you sell it to.
Right.
So how do you not get fucked? On vintage, it's very hard. Find the best dealers. I happen to like Craft and Tailored. I'll shout them out. When it comes to Seiko, because there's so much fake Seiko. There's so many mix and match parts on Seikos because they weren't worth shit for a long time. And now they're vintage Seikos worth something. Shout out to DC Vintage Watches, our friend Nick Farrell. That dude knows Seiko, and you are buying a real thing if you buy from him. And beyond that, shit, I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe if there's good documentation or photos and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I mean if you're talking, if the watch is vintage and has like documentation, you're probably buying a collector grade piece. You can have things independently appraised. That's
right.
possible.
They could open it up, right, and go,
Yeah,
this doesn't match that.
Yeah. There's people that can do that, but you have to know what to look for a lot of the time. It's tough. But I would say just be careful and don't buy something that's crazy expensive based on certain facts you aren't certain about. Don't go buy a $100,000 vintage watch because it's got some kind of provenance that you can't personally inspect. On the other hand, if it looks cool and it works and it's a fair price to you, fucking have at it. Buy it, Just are you thinking about it as in terms of an investment piece, or do you just want something cool to wear?
Then you have to do your homework.
Then it's like homework.
Yeah.
Bad Gardener. I grew up racing top-level karting until college. I don't race anymore, but I still enjoy track days. I'd like to experience driving vintage racing like I see at Goodwood Revival. I currently have a Fiesta ST. It's not exactly Goodwood Revival. For a teacher's budget, is that the best that driving is going to get, or would a 2-car garage with a daily and a classic car be worthwhile?
How much are Formula Fords?
Pretty
the
cheap.
open wheel things?
I mean, like $10,000-$15,000.
I mean, that might be
you
the
can
answer.
go vintage racing for very little money.
Yeah, because they started making those
you could
in
tow
the
it
60s.
with your Fiesta.
Yeah, you can. I mean, Sam Smith, he owned one for a couple of years and raced it. Like, it's an open wheel car. I think it's a spec series, so the engines are all the same, and it's all in the setup. Not too fast, and you can tow it with your Fiesta. They're really light.
I wouldn't sell your Fiesta to have a cheaper daily just so you can have a vintage car on the side. I think a Fiesta ST is a great 1-car garage if that's what your budget is. I wouldn't get rid of because if you get rid of that car, you'll never be able to get another one for what you got rid of it for.
Yeah.
But and an old Lotus, I get it, or a Caterham or something like that. Like I get the appeal. But I would maybe put money aside for that, or try and get a vintage Formula race car and do some track days in that and some racing in that. Vera, VARA, and SVRA are the racing vintage racing series, and I know people that are like totally regular folks, not rolling around in money, that race vintage cars, from open wheel stuff to like Triumphs and MGs and Minis, stuff like that. Classic Minis are pretty cheap. They race them a lot.
It's funny is when I searched Lotus Elan on Auto Tempest, a lot of the results are Miatas.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these are just street cars, and they're $5,000 to $10,000, and so they may not even be race ready. I don't know. That's a lot of budget and modifications there.
Ben Stahl says, trying to decide between a new daily driver, live in Austin, brand new LC 500 convertible, or Lotus Emira with the 6-speed.
Oh.
I mean, well, first off, you got to answer: do you want to drive automatic or manual? I mean, that's a big choice to make.
True.
And one will eliminate the other. Do you want a big GT car or a small mid-engine agile car?
Will you go to the track or not? Because if you don't go to the track, there's some nice-ish roads around Austin. I've done some launches there. I think I would get bored of them pretty quickly in a manual car. So unless you are going to track days with your Lotus, if you're just commuting in it, I would go LC 500.
I probably would too. There's some roads outside of Austin that are nice driving roads, but the everyday driving of Austin, he did say daily driver.
Yeah.
The everyday driving of Austin, in my experience, is not made better with a manual gearbox, really. Especially because the LC has a good automatic.
Yeah.
It's not like it's shitty.
Yeah.
Paddles are good, it's responsive, it's snappy.
And the twisty roads I experienced out there, they didn't require that much shifting. It would be like a straight for a while, and then a small S, and then a straight for a while, and maybe third gear could actually in the Lotus you could do most of those roads in just third gear. So I would go LC.
I'd probably go LC also. Liang Ku. Long question short. What piece of automobilia collection or item would you like to have if you have unlimited FU money? I know exactly what I would like to have. There was and I know the person who owns it, actually. There was a Senna Formula One car.
Oh, yeah.
Disassembled and turned into like a pop-out model. Like you would like the kind of when you build a model car and there it is.
Yeah.
When you build a model car and the pieces pop out of a plastic scaffolding, like an Airfix model or a thing. So a real Senna car was turned into that, and I would love that.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
I would go with the paintings at Jay Leno's garage that are like 15 feet tall, and they took an old poster and then they remade it in huge scale. I think those are awesome.
That's very cool. Yeah. Did you see the book Donnie gave me? I put a picture of it on Instagram last week. Donnie shows up and he goes, "I have a present for you." And that's not nice, whatever. And he goes, "You got to help me unload it from the car." And it's a fucking massive box. It's like 3 feet by 3 feet by 18 inches. It's a wooden crate. And it's one of these Taschen, I think it's pronounced right, books. Scroll back in my Instagram like last week. Keep going, 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 keep going. There, Ferrari, right in the middle. And that's the inside of the crate. That looks vaguely like a Ferrari engine block with
with valve covers.
Covers. Scroll to the right. So it comes in this crate like this, and this is the most special coffee table book that exists. And if you open it, keep going, inside those valve covers you flip open, and there's this amazing leather and chrome book about the entire history of Ferrari.
Whoa.
And it's all these photographs that are like super high res, never seen, some are never seen before. And it's incredible. And so this book, apparently, because I couldn't help myself but look it up, this book, as it is there in that case, is $6,000.
Jesus.
So shout out to Donnie.
What's your invoice on your Countach look like right now?
He probably added $6,000 for the
he
book.
padded it, right?
I bought it for myself.
This is very cool. It's like a briefcase made of engine valve
Dude, it
cover.
weighs like
Wow.
80 pounds.
Jesus.
And there's a version of this that's $30,000 where that engine block thing comes on a stand that looks like headers.
Oh my God.
It's the same book, same engine block thing, but it's on a stand, and it's just insane.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to, it's for the new shop, and I'm going to turn the whole thing into a coffee table, which is going to be pretty cool, I think. But so that's a really wild piece.
You could have
of
like the
memorabilia.
box and then the case and then the book all under glass together.
Glass.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's very neat. So I have to have a thing made for it. But still, it's really, really, really neat. That's a good.
It's like when Larry gives you a print.
And they only made what was the year Ferrari started? 1947. So they made 1,947 of them, and this one is like number 1860
That's
something.
rad. That's real cool.
Yeah, super cool. Donnie said he has another one. He has one for him, and he got one for me. I must have sent him a lot of business. Richard H. says, when it comes to Porsche's four-door vehicles, do you think the premium versus competitors is always worth it? So whether it's worth it or not is your choice, but I do know where it comes from in a lot of cases, and specifically the Macan. Because I went to them, I'm sure I've said this on the show before.
Yeah.
I went to the Macan factory, which is Macan is platform shared with the Q5 and the Tiguan, and you go, well, why is a Macan 75 grand and a Q5 is 55 grand and a Tiguan is 35 grand? Why is that? And part of it is the engine and the parts that go into it, and another part of it is the number of quality checks they do per day. And when they do a quality check, they're measuring tolerances, they're measuring fit and finish. They then go back to the suppliers who adjust the tolerances of the parts, which then go in the... So those cars get tighter and tighter tolerances as they go on. And so Porsche does that a lot more than the other companies, which is expensive. It's an expensive process. Plus, Porsche does a have it your way. You know, Audi, an Audi A8 let's go same thing, Macan Q. The Tiguan will have the driver's pack, the tech pack, and then 8 colors you can get it in. The Audi will have some individual options with a couple other packages and maybe 2 extra engine options, and there's 12 colors. The Porsche, you can individualize, paint a sample, individual options, leave out the this, but put in the this, and it just costs more money to have that level of customization. That shit costs money, so that's why. Okay. Let's see. Lucas says that I talk a lot about urbanism. I host experts in related fields, and I evangelize the idea that cars and urbanism can coexist and that we both want the same thing. In his experience, at political and municipal activist level, this is a complete fantasy. Urbanists who actually lobby local governments genuinely loathe cars. They hate them. They will do anything to make driving as miserable as possible to advance their agendas. In my opinion, amplifying their voices as a driving enthusiast is counterproductive. Well, okay, that's your opinion, and I'm sure there are some of those people that hate cars. But the people I've interacted with are able to see the difference between what the city center should be as far as a walkable and livable and a city, a place with clean air that prioritizes the safety and life of pedestrians and bicyclists and stuff like that, and nature, and does not revolve around the needs of cars and their drivers. I think those people understand that you can be a car enthusiast and collect cars, and I don't know all of them, and I haven't been to a board meeting. I haven't been to a local government meeting, so I don't know. The people that I talk to are journalists who write for The Atlantic or Los Angeles Magazine or New York Magazine, like Alyssa Walker and David Zipper, and guys that typically guys and women and whatever else in between who are pro-urban lifestyle in a way that we don't make cars the center of our urban infrastructure, and we really focus on public transit and how we can help people get around that either can't afford a car or don't want a car. But that doesn't, that to me doesn't clash with the enthusiasm of cars as art, with motorsport, with driving a car on a great road on a nice day, with going on a road trip. It almost exclusively talks about how cars are favored in our urban environments at the expense of pedestrians, cyclists, mass transit, and other ways of getting around. And so while I'm sure there are some like insane car-hating people, they're not the people that I interact with. I'm not discounting your experience, Lucas. I'm sure that you're being honest about your experiences, but those experiences haven't been mine, and I've found that when I engage these people from someone who is a car enthusiast that also believes that urban spaces should not prioritize cars, we seem to find common ground. And I'd like to... I told David Zipper the other day, I want to get him in here because he's pretty hardcore urbanist as well. And if I didn't know him, I was introduced to him in Germany. He came to the thing in Germany. I was introduced by Alex Roy. And Alex, the day I met him, he brought him into my hotel room and he goes, you guys are either going to love each other or hate each other. And I really like him. I think he's really smart. And I interact with him on Twitter all the time. He brings up great points. And he understands that to be a car enthusiast, to be an enthusiast of sports cars and race cars and beautiful collectible cars, and to be an urbanist are not mutually exclusive. And so I'd love to go to a meeting and explain that to somebody, but maybe one day I will. But your point is taken. I happen to disagree based on my own experience. Dave from Minnesota. Ideal apocalypse vehicle. Scooter. In Los Angeles, traffic is going to be the thing.
Right. Depends on, is it short-term apocalypse or long-term? Because short-term, like, I bought a dirt bike for a reason.
Yeah.
Long-term, I think his move of diesel SUV is a great idea.
Yeah. The Delica is pretty good. You could live in it if you had to.
I wouldn't go Delica because how common are the parts for that car?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
I would go with something mass sold, like,
Yeah.
diesel Ford truck or diesel Land Cruiser.
Yeah. Yeah. Short term, though, two wheels
Short term, two wheels
good.
Sailboat.
Dustin Height says, I own a 2011 Lotus Evora S. Would the Evora 400 GT or Emira be worth upgrading to, or is my Evora S enough of the Evora experience for the money? Used S values are around 60K. I probably would say skip the 400 and the GT. You're probably close enough with the S. The Emira, I mean, the driving dynamics are pretty similar.
Yeah.
It depends on if you like your interior and the styling or not, or you want to feel the new thing and maybe have a better radio.
Yeah, it's 40 grand for a new interior, new radio. And you still have analog gauges, which I like, versus the screen in the new one. Mm-hmm. I think I would stay with what you have personally. Mm-hmm. It's more of a math and finance question.
Okay. All right. Tough one, Jack Snell. And I have a call, I'm sorry, in 12 minutes. So I'm going to try and get through as many as I can. Jack Snell, I'm doing a critical discourse analysis of the industry's transition to EV. The main question I'm exploring is the shift being done for the greater good? Is it an exercise in greenwashing or somewhere in between? Would you be able to give an argument for each side? Okay, well...
It's like a debate. You have 2 minutes, Farah. You're playing both sides.
I think what's being done, and I'm going to try and say both sides in one. I think that in general, it's probably a net positive. Having said that, it's a net positive in terms of our most pressing issue, which seems to be the warming of the earth. And if greenhouse gas emissions can be curbed drastically and rapidly, then that is good. I also think that a lot of our emissions that are causing this problem don't come from passenger cars, comes from other places. And so we are not putting enough pressure on industries, the military, shipping, aviation,
Learjet usage.
Yeah, to clean up their acts, the same way that we are pressuring, at least in the media, individuals to clean up their own acts. I think that our country wants cleaner air, wants to modernize and have fewer emissions, but not at the expense of capitalism. They don't want to build mass transit because they have to pay for that when they could make you pay for a new car. They will hold up capitalism, not hold up to restrict, hold up, prop up. They will prop up capitalism before they will break that system down to save the planet. That's my argument. So it's not greenwashing. I think people like Jason Fensky, who really study this stuff, have come out and said that cradle to the grave, most EVs are cleaner than most gas-powered cars, especially if you have clean power behind it, which not everywhere does, but some do. But I don't think there's enough focus on things like transitioning to more fuel-efficient vehicles from less fuel-efficient vehicles. I mean, in terms of keeping, not everybody can afford an EV, and we're not doing enough to push people fast enough into efficient vehicles in terms of dealing with weight of vehicles, because a lot of the shit in the air is from tires, from rubber.
Yeah, brake dust.
There's other brake dust. There's all kinds of stuff, but I think that kind of answers both in one. But it's going to be capitalism over the environment as far as America goes. They will definitely make you buy some new shit.
Sell you the solution.
Before they have to clean up their own act. And by the way, I recommend the book Winners Take All for you if you want a real in-depth look at why a lot of the people that caused these problems want to sell you the solution to these problems at a big profit. Joe Curran says, okay, wants to know about the Ferrari Texas shop that I have accused of being somewhat untoward. I am doing an in-depth story on this shop. I'm gathering interviews from people, and I'm working on a piece for Road and Track. If anyone out there has had a problem with that Ferrari shop in Texas that does manual transmission swaps into automatic Ferraris, you will know who I'm talking about. DM me or email me if you've had a problem and you want to tell your story. Crandy says, what is that? Something. What do you think causes tension or beef between automotive journalists? From the outside, it seems like a lot of them don't get along.
I mean, I haven't had that experience.
I haven't personally had beef with people, but I've seen it between other people.
Really? I haven't even observed. Maybe I just don't consume enough stuff.
Typically there's some a few people that are really angry, and they're angry at a lot of other people. Oh. I think there's a few things. One is you're competing for views, you're competing for traffic, you're competing for resources. There's also some machismo about it in terms of who's a better driver than someone else, who's faster around a track, who is doing something ethically versus not ethically. If you're trying to be ethical, but you see people doing things that aren't ethical, that could certainly cause some tension. If in some of these press launches, especially pre-COVID, journalists had to share cars. You'd be on this trip and you'd be sharing a car with someone. I've been in situations where I was not comfortable with the person's driving, who I was forced to share a car with. And so I have a internal list of people I will and will not get into a car with. Now, that doesn't mean I don't like the person or it causes beef, but there's definitely a sting on that if I don't feel safe in a car with somebody. There are some people in the industry that are generally angry people. Not me. I can be angry about stuff, but it's not usually this. And so I think all of those things could cause beef or tension. And people are going to react different ways. Most of the people that we hang out with are pretty mellow and get along.
Yeah, I'm quiet because I haven't observed much beef between, I can't think of any that I've watched happen, and I don't give enough of a shit about being mad about somebody else for doing something. So
yeah. And there's also things that someone could have beef with an outlet and the actions of an outlet as a whole, and maybe not the individual writers for that outlet.
True.
Or,
yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah. Shit. All right. I'm gonna try to. All right. I'm just gonna do Andrew N's question. The other ones are gonna have to get bumped. My question is somewhat pedantic. As we see more plug-in hybrids being sold, and we see more on the used market, would it be helpful if hybrids were advertised or could show their electric miles and internal combustion miles driven? If you're buying a car with 100K miles, but a significant number of those miles were electric and not gas, would that change your mind?
Yeah.
I would be surprised if they don't already do that.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Even if it's not displayed on the output, I would be surprised if there wasn't a way by hooking up a diagnostic tool to see that.
I'm going to see if I can find anything on
I have a vague recollection of the Volt that I had having an onboard diagnostic that showed engine hours. That showed, it wasn't miles driven, but it was how many hours the engine had run for. To answer your question, it's not pedantic. I do think that would be a helpful metric. I would like to know. how many miles would be driven on electric versus on gas.
Yeah.
But I haven't. We should really start looking into that when we have hybrid press cars in the future, if that's something that can be displayed.
And then you got to figure out what's the sweet spot where like the engine's been on enough times to stay lubricated.
Well,
it has a computer
usually
that
the
does
car
that.
automatically will do that.
Right. Has it been driven enough, but not too much?
Yeah, no, the car will cycle its fluids through as it needs based on programming. And usually it makes you acknowledge it. Usually it'll say, the engine will turn on to cycle fluids, like, do you approve? And you hit yes, and then it comes on and cycles the fluids. Even if it doesn't show on the UI, I'm almost certain that's the kind of thing that would come up with a diagnostic tool.
Yeah, probably.
So
It'll show engine hours or something like that.
And if I'm wrong about that and someone knows for sure, please let us know. Or if I'm definitely right, please let us know. I'm sorry that I have to end this cruise show right now because I have a call. Zach and I, by the time you hear this, will be flying home, hopefully, from the RZR XP launch in Knoxville. I hope it's a good time. We will have a video for you of that. Please go watch our Lotus Emira review, which is live on the YouTube channel now as of Wednesday, the 12th. And thank you all for listening, and thanks to the patrons for their questions. We will see you next week.